King Eadwig reigned over England from 955 to 959. Eadwig succeeded his father, King Eadred, upon his death in 955, inheriting a kingdom that was still recovering from Viking invasions and the fragmentation of the Danelaw. However, Eadwig's reign was overshadowed by a combination of personal challenges, political unrest, and religious controversies that would later define his legacy. Eadwig was born around 941, the son of King Edmund I of England and his second wife, Elfled. Eadwig was the eldest surviving son of Edmund and became the heir to the throne after the premature death of his older brother, Eadwig's elder sibling, Elfweard, in 924. Eadwig's early life was shaped by the legacy of his father, Edmund I, who had consolidated much of England under Anglo-Saxon rule. Upon Edmund's death in 946, Eadwig's younger brother, Edgar, was only a child, meaning that Eadwig inherited the throne at a young age. When Eadwig became king, he was around 14 years old, and as such, much of his reign was likely guided by regents. Despite this, his rule was immediately marked by disputes over succession and governance. His ascension to the throne, though uncontested, did not resolve the deeper political tensions within the kingdom. Moreover, Eadwig's succession came at a time when the kingdom was still recovering from the Viking invasions that had fragmented the country in the 9th and 10th centuries. Although much of the Danelaw had been reintegrated into England under his grandfather, Ethelstan, and his father, Eadred, the political landscape remained far from stable. Eadwig's reign began amidst a fractured political environment. His kingdom was deeply divided, both internally and externally. One of the most significant challenges was the factionalism between the southern kingdoms of Wessex and the more autonomous northern regions, particularly Mercia. The central authority of the Wessex monarchy was still a work in progress, and many local lords and nobles in the northern and Midlands regions did not always comply with royal decrees. Eadwig's early rule was marked by political disarray, as rival factions vied for influence. The reign of Eadwig was troubled by the long-standing rivalry between Wessex and Mercia, a divide that went back several generations. Despite this rivalry, Eadwig's rule also suffered from familial tension, especially involving his younger brother Edgar, who had been born after the death of their father. Edgar was originally designated as King of Mercia, a decision that reflected the fracturing of the kingdom under Eadwig's leadership. This situation raised the possibility of conflict between Eadwig and his brother, and thus the kingdom faced the challenge of maintaining political unity. The arrangement, in many ways, would set the stage for future divisions in England. One of the most significant and well-documented aspects of Eadwig's reign was his troubled relationship with the Church. Eadwig's conflicts with the Church played a key role in the decline of his popularity and authority. Eadwig's reign is most famous for his ongoing tensions with the ecclesiastical establishment, particularly his dispute with Archbishop Oda of Canterbury and the monasteries of Wessex. Eadwig's failure to maintain a strong relationship with the Church would have significant repercussions for his kingship. The most infamous incident occurred in 958, when Eadwig, in a move that shocked both the Church and the nobility, divorced his wife, Elfgifu, and married a new woman, Ethelgifu. His decision was deemed scandalous by the Church, which condemned the divorce as sinful. The ecclesiastical establishment, led by Archbishop Oda of Canterbury, took a hard stance against the king's actions. Eadwig's divorce and subsequent marriage to Ethelgifu were seen as an affront to Christian morals and ecclesiastical authority, and the Church played a key role in undermining Eadwig's legitimacy. The conflict between Eadwig and the church reached its peak when Oda excommunicated the king, a powerful religious sanction that could destabilize a ruler's position. In response, Eadwig attempted to assert his authority over the church, refusing to submit to the dictates of the archbishop. However, this conflict between the crown and the church created a perception of weakness and instability in the monarchy, diminishing Eadwig's influence over his kingdom and leading to further divisions within the realm. Moreover, Eadwig's struggles with the church were exacerbated by his youthful arrogance and his perceived lack of humility before religious authorities. The public nature of his marital dispute, coupled with his inability to reconcile with the church, caused many of his nobles and clergy to question his fitness to rule. For a king whose legitimacy was closely tied to his relationship with the church, Eadwig's reign represented a period of spiritual and political crisis. As Eadwig's reign progressed, his inability to resolve his differences with the church and his increasingly autocratic approach to governance contributed to widespread discontent among the nobility and clergy. His reign also saw significant resistance from the Wessex nobility and the regional aristocracy. This discontent was particularly notable in Wessex, where local lords and nobles were becoming increasingly disillusioned with his leadership style. In 959, Eadwig's reign came to a swift end when he was effectively overthrown in a coup orchestrated by his own nobles. According to the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, Eadwig was driven from power by the nobility, led by his powerful brother Edgar, who was widely popular among the people and the clergy. Although Eadwig's brother had initially been designated as the ruler of Mercia, his popularity and political acumen eventually made him a more viable candidate for the throne of all England. Eadwig's political isolation and inability to unite the kingdom in the face of his reign's internal divisions sealed his fate. Eadwig's abdication was not a result of any violent coup, but rather the culmination of a series of political maneuvers by his brother Edgar, who, by this time, had gained the loyalty of key lords and the church. Eadwig's exile, though peaceful, marked the end of his brief and tumultuous reign. Edgar succeeded him on the throne and went on to become one of the most revered kings in English history. Eadwig's abdication in 959 marked a definitive moment in the shift from the troubled rule of Eadwig to the more stable reign of Edgar. Eadwig's reign, though short, left a lasting impact on Anglo-Saxon England. His struggles with the church and his eventual deposition by his brother Edgar are central to the historical memory of his time on the throne. Eadwig's reign is often viewed as a failed attempt at consolidating power in a divided kingdom, marked by conflict, scandal, and political instability. Eadwig's marriage controversies and conflict with the church not only damaged his reputation, but also contributed to a shift in the political landscape of the kingdom. The dispute between the monarchy and the ecclesiastical authorities would be a theme that continued to define the politics of medieval England. Furthermore, his abdication set the stage for Edgar's reign, which would be marked by greater political stability and the eventual unification of England. In the context of Anglo-Saxon kingship, Eadwig's reign serves as a cautionary tale about the limits of monarchical authority when it is not supported by the church and nobility. His inability to manage the delicate balance between secular and religious power weakened his position and ultimately led to his downfall. Eadwig's legacy, therefore, is one of missed opportunities and lost potential, as his reign failed to build upon the successes of his predecessors, particularly his father, Eadred, and his grandfather, Ethelstan. King Eadwig's reign, although brief, represents a pivotal moment in the history of Anglo-Saxon England. His failure to secure political unity, combined with his disastrous conflict with the Church, undermined his authority and led to his deposition in 959. Eadwig's short reign serves as a reminder of the complexities of medieval kingship, where the support of both the Church and the nobility was essential for a king to maintain power. Despite his early promise, Eadwig's reign was ultimately marked by political instability and division, and his deposition paved the way for the more successful reign of his brother, Edgar. Eadwig's legacy is one of missed opportunities, and his reign remains a poignant example of the challenges faced by kings in a deeply fractured and contested political landscape.